Good evening, boys and girls. We have a surprise today. What's in this big box? I have no idea. This is apparently a birthday assortment gift from my dear friend Septum Sin. From Septum Sin versus the World, I will link that channel in the description, and you and I will find out what it is together. But first, I want to show you a few random things that I got. First up is an Amazon pre-order of the 4K of Requiem for a Dream. Probably one of the scariest non-horror films I've ever seen in my life. It'll make you never ever ever want to do any kind of drugs of any kind, because what happens to these people is pretty horrific, and it's all too terribly true. Um, anyway, yeah, the cast here: Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, Marlon Wayans, Ellen Burstyn, they all kill it in this film. It's one of the most intense films I've ever seen, but it's just amazing. I haven't watched it since college, but I really want to dive back into it. I wouldn't exactly say that it is a pleasant watch, but it's one you definitely got to see because it's by far one of the best of the 2000s. Um, Now you may recall having seen the We Own the Night custom cover there. But what's that? It's the disc, and it's the double feature cover of We Own the Night and Donnie Brasco. Why do you suppose that might be? Well, what's that there? It's the disc only, and I need to grab me a custom cover for this film. And I did find one on Custom Maniacs, I just need to print it. But that does lead me into some unexpected pawn shop finds that I managed to get today. It just happened to be in one. And there were DVDs for $1, Blu-rays for $2, and so I just found a few random things. First up is this Ellen DeGeneres 2-pack of 2 different stand-up specials, which, you know, the prevailing wisdom is, oh, we have to hate Ellen DeGeneres now, she's canceled, blah, 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 but I don't ever buy into that kind of hive mind line of thinking. I make my own decisions about who I do and don't like, and I have always liked Ellen DeGeneres. I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of, her being kind or nice or whatever, or not, or anything like that. I don't pretend to know any of that. I do think that one kind of sets oneself up for automatic failure when one's reputation is being, be kind or whatever, because inevitably you're a human being and you have good days, you have bad days, and all that stuff. I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of it. All I know is that, I certainly hope, for, the best for her, because I've always thought she was talented. And these are very good stand-up specials nonetheless. So I already had the one. I didn't have the one that came before, the beginning. I didn't have that one, so I'll probably sell my duplicate of the other one. And then this one here is called Suspect Zero, and it is an E. Elias Merhaj, whatever. Never known how to pronounce his name. He did Begotten, and he did Shadow of the Vampire. He directed some Marilyn Manson music videos. And Suspect Zero, I know, possibly his most recent feature film, and it was all the way back in 2004. If it isn't his most recent, then it's certainly one of them. He has not done very many feature films, which is too bad, because again, I absolutely love Shadow of the Vampire, and it too does not have a Blu-ray release. And so what's the deal with that? And one of the screenwriters was Billy Ray. Did he? I don't want to misquote which ones he did, but I'm pretty sure I've seen some of his films. But anyway, Suspect Zero, that was for the DVDs, and then a couple Blu-rays. Got The American there with George Clooney, and I have no clue about this film. I just remembered there was a cool custom cover for it out there that I want to print out. These really cheap ones are good fodder for that sort of thing. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, one of the best westerns ever made, and kind of the anti-Western in a way, for relative to its time, but it really good film. George Roy Hill directed it, and I'm surprised that there's not like a super duper cool version of this, like from Criterion Collection or, Shout Select or something. Seems like it'd be good for it. And then I remembered seeing this movie in the theater, Duplicity, with my boy Clive Owen, and the trailers made this movie look like it was going to be so much better than it was, which is not to say that it was bad. It was just kind of forgettable. Unfortunately, Clive Owen, like a lot of the films that he's in, they don't really seem to age all that well. Like people kind of forget about him, which is too bad because I absolutely love Clive Owen. And it's written and directed by Tony Gilroy, who, he would do Nightcrawler. If I or no, that was Dan Gilroy. Tony Gilroy, wasn't he Michael Clayton? Point being, great writer director, and want to watch it again because I haven't seen it since theaters. That was all the way back in 2000 and, well, it's copyright 2009. I thought it was 2008, but I could believe either one. Um, and then talk about a film that nobody talks about anymore that I also have not seen since theaters, and was another Universal film, and that was Frost Nixon, the Ron Howard film. No one ever talks about this film, and I remember at the time I was sort of like watching it. I think honestly the trailers kind of ruined it because they kind of reveal like the whole big climax of the movie, the big climactic interview with Richard Nixon. They kind of played their trump card too early in the trailer, and in other words, when you're actually watching the movie, you're just kind of like, gee, this feels really anticlimactic. And again, that is, I'm sure, largely due to the marketing department having shown too much. And this is a film that you can find for like $2 even outside of a pawn shop. Like nobody talks about it and nobody really thinks about it anymore. And I think part of why that is because, good acting though it had, and, earnest as it was, at least for me, I remembered thinking that, so this came out in 2008. There were a lot of, very politically charged films that came out during that year. It was the end of the Bush presidency. It was the dawning of the Obama age. And I remembered there were a lot of films that were coming out that were like kind of either directly talking about the Bush administration, like say the Oliver Stone film, or there were ones that were addressing it in some kind of metaphorical way. Like I feel like this in many ways was sort of like, it was about Richard Nixon, but in a lot of ways it was kind of like skirting around and trying to, make comparisons to the Bush administration and that kind of stuff. That's kind of how it came across to me, because might as well just show you this one. Sorry about that. Nudge the camera. Might as well just show you this Milk. That was another one. Same year, Sean Penn won Best Actor for this movie, and very deservedly so. Another, solid movie. I liked it more than Frost Nixon. Another solid movie that, again, nobody talks about anymore. And this one came out at around, I think it was Prop 8 was on the ballot in California, and that was after, because they had that short window where same-sex marriage was legal, and then it became illegal, when the people voted on it, and then with the Supreme Court decision, it became legal everywhere in the U.S., and who knows what's going to become of that, given the new Supreme Court nominee that got confirmed, which that's a whole other discussion. But point being that both of these, solid films though they were, they're just, nobody really talks about them. And I think part of it is that they're rooted in their own time and place, and part of it is that the politics of when they came out, and kind of what was going on at the time, both of those things I think kind of overshadowed the films themselves, which again they were quite good, but it's just like once you got over both of those things, especially the hype surrounding them relative to the political climate of 2008, once you got over all that, then people just kind of forgot about them, which is too bad, but at the same time I can kind of understand why. But out of the two, I liked Milk a lot more. and it was one of probably Gus Van Sant's his other big, mainstream hit besides Good Will Hunting. And Ron Howard, he's had quite the varied directorial career. That's a whole other discussion for another day. And then we have a movie I haven't seen, but it has The Rock in it, and that's Gridiron Gang. And I'm not normally a sports movie person, but I really like what The Rock is able to do as an actor. I think he is kind of this generation's Schwarzenegger, but better a better actor than Schwarzenegger ever was, at least in his golden period. I don't know how he is these days. I've heard that he can turn around better performances in his old age. Speaking of old age, Grudge Match, which I heard not so great things about from some people, and then other people seem to enjoy it. I don't know. Like I'm thinking of Brad Jones, the cinema snob, put it on his worst of 2013, which there's a lot of his tastes that I don't agree with, and a lot of just things about his complicity with the whole Channel Awesome thing that I don't agree with, but. I know that then James Rolfe gave this movie a special mention when he was counting down the Rocky franchise. And I never really thought to compare it in that way, but I know that the whole gimmick of it is that it's Rocky versus Raging Bull, who would win, blah blah blah. I know that that's kind of the gimmick of it, but again, I have no clue how good it actually is, and so that's why it's like you gotta try to separate the film itself from what people say about it or the climate in which it arises, all that stuff. um, and then we have Hairspray, which I remembered seeing in the theater. I actually went to an advance press screening for this film way back when I was like 15 at the time, and I got some tickets or something, and so I got to see it earlier than most people, and I remembered enjoying it quite a bit. It's one of those films that it's I hate the expression "feel good" movie because it's so well, a it's very subjective, and b you know I hate it when that's kind of used as a term of like a point in the movie's favor, because who's to say what can make someone feel good or not? For all someone could feel good from watching Sallow, which you probably wouldn't want to invite that person in your home, but it's possible. So I don't really like it when it's kind of used as a criterion. I don't like it when it's used that way. Plus, again, it's subjective, and it's and even if it is applicable, even if it is a truly feel good movie or whatever, there is such a thing as kind of I guess the expression would be sickly sweet, or something that you want to indulge in every now and again, for certain. Because that's just how I felt with this. Because I do really really like it. I'd highly recommend it, but it's not one that I would necessarily want to watch over and over again in too great a frequency, because it does kind of get to be a little much in spots, and to the point where you're just especially I'm thinking of the climax where they set up the antagonist where you aren't supposed to like him, and you don't like him, but at the same time it's the whole thing, the climax is such that it would work really well on the stage, and obviously it's adapted from the stage musical, which was adapted from John Waters' original film. um, it would work well on the stage, just kind of as a sing along kind of reprise number live in the theater where there's all the energy and stuff. But there are certain things that just don't translate all that well to film. Now granted, this does translate to film a lot better than most, because it originated from a film. But point is that there are just times where I'm just like, okay, we can stop now, or we can tone it down, or we can So in other words, it's one that I would revisit once every couple years, at least, probably several years. Your mileage may vary on that one. Anyway, this is one I want to rewatch because I have not watched it since college again. The Ides of March, with Ryan Gosling, and directed by George Clooney. I really think George Clooney's a great director. much better than a lot of people. Like, a lot of people obviously think of him primarily as an actor because that is what he's known for primarily. But I think that people often forget about just what a good director he is. And I remembered really enjoying the film as a directorial exercise and just overall filmmaking. I remembered at the time kind of thinking that, as solid as it was, I remembered thinking, well, what is this really telling me? Politicians are corrupt. There's a lot of, dirty business that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of briberies, a lot of, catch and kill with, catching a story and killing it before it can run. And I knew all that going in. So if I were a lot younger, then maybe it would, teach me something I didn't already know. But as I was watching it, I was like, this isn't really telling me anything I don't already know. Again, I haven't watched it since then, and part of it was also that, like, the people that were telling me, oh, it's so great, were all of these supposedly straight guys who had, like, the biggest man crush on Ryan Gosling of all time, which I've still never really understood. It's a little bit like when Jennifer Lawrence was first kind of getting on the scene as a big star. Like, all of the supposedly straight women that were telling me, what a girl crush they had on her. I don't know. But point being, I did remember thinking it was a solid film, a really good one. I just need to watch it again because it's been forever. Now, this is one that my mom really loved, my first girlfriend really loved. Um, and of course, they both did because they were both massive fans of Ray Fiennes, which, who isn't? And that is The Reader, and that was a Stephen Daldry film, which normally with these rental exclusives, well, this one's a Blockbuster exclusive specifically. Kids, Blockbuster was a store where you would go to rent movies physically, no internet. Yeah, it's a little. I got it because of the kind of historical artifact purposes, but surprisingly, with a lot of these rental exclusives, they generally don't come with special features, except this does. So how about that? But also, it's just, I don't know, makes me smile. But really good film, very solid. It's kind of a normally where, if you're talking about, like, relationships with one person that's significantly older than the other person, generally that person's a much older man with a young girl, like a either young adult woman or possibly girl who's underage, whatever. Not too often where you see the opposite, and so that's kind of what makes this pretty neat. Plus, Kate Winslet got her Best Actress Oscar, and for good reason, because, again, great film. And I don't think Ray Fiennes really gets enough credit for his role in this film, but partially that's because he's actually not in it all that much. The person who plays his character younger, he is in it a lot more. But again, very solid film. And then I haven't seen any of these, but we got this horror 3-pack of Salvage, Memory, and Mortuary. And this one was from the late, great Tobe Hooper. And yeah, this is a Walmart one, I guess, because of the Voodoo digital copy there. And it's one of those cheapo Echo Bridge releases. But, it was $2. And then I'm really ashamed to admit I still, all these years later, almost 20 years, it's 16 years at the time of this recording, still have not watched this movie, and that is Troy. But I'm glad to have it in the collection so I can finally watch it. But yeah, still, all these years later, never saw it. I feel bad, but I will. Now that I have it, I have no excuses. And this film came out in 2008. This is another one that nobody talks about anymore, and nobody really talked about it at the time that it came out. But for whatever reason, it did always kind of leave me curious, and that was Vantage Point, which is, kind of a president, gets hit with an assassin's bullet, and, all the different perspectives thereof. That's basically it. I have no clue about it other than that. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. And then, of course, we have Wall Street and Wall Street Money Never Sleeps. And Wall Street, the original, is great, of course, one of the standout Oliver Stone films from his golden period. Um, and then we had the 2010 sequel that nobody asked for, with Shia LaBeouf just kind of shoved in there back in the days when he was being shoved into all kinds of movies that he didn't really have a lot of business being in. And, which is not to say that he's not a good actor or whatever, because he has proven himself to be certainly an avant-garde actor and a, performance artist and all that. This was back when he was trying to go kind of that mainstream, Transformers, Disturbia, Eagle Eye, he was in like every movie to the point where you were just like, does he really need to be in this movie? Or, it just kind of felt like he was just kind of being shoehorned into stuff. And then eventually that part of his career kind of fizzled out. And so then he became like Mr., weirdo performance artist, off the wall kind of actor. But never saw this one, but, the first one's great. And these both have slipcovers of some kind that I'll have to track down, or I was trying to look for, like, cool custom covers, and I was sadly disappointed. And then, why do I own this? I remembered seeing it in the theater, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, and I have not seen it since theaters, and it was quite awkward because, my mom and I would always see movies together. We didn't really bond over all that much, except she was a lot more willing to go to movies back then. And, part of it was she just wanted to get out of the house, and also she was a lot more adventurous at the time. And then eventually, she just grew to hate, like, everything having to do with the American mainstream. Not for the reasons that I that I do. But anyway, I remembered we saw, like, Click in the theater, we saw this in the theater, and my mom complained the whole time because she hated, the sex jokes and stuff. Don't ask me why we went to the movies we went to. I really don't know. Point being, with that all being said, I do remember seeing this in the theater at the time, and I remembered, I haven't seen it in so long. It was another Dennis Dugan film. He's directed so many Adam Sandler films. This one I remembered at the time, like, I enjoyed some of the weirder aspects of the humor. Like, I like the drink that he likes from Israel, Sparky. I think they said Sparky Bubbly, and I like his love interest in the film, who was unbelievably beautiful. I remember when she gives a drink of that drink to him, and he's like, no, I don't know, because he's, like, addicted to it pretty much, and he's, like, trying to pretend like he doesn't love it, but then takes it and, like, gulps it, like, in, like, 2 seconds. The whole thing, drains it, and he's like, it's not for me. Which I remembered loving that part, in that, like, that has stuck in my brain ever since then. But I have not watched it since theaters, so I'm gonna have to check it out. Which is kind of funny. Compare this to, like, The Dictator, the Sacha Baron Cohen film. Different kind of thing, because the Zohan there is a counter-terrorist agent for Israel, whereas the Dictator, that's basically a stand-in for Gaddafi, who is a very eccentric dictator in the annals of dictator history. And they both end up in New York, and they both end up in professions that are not their own, that sort of thing. It'd be interesting to kind of do a comparison contrast there. Alright, so that was a long preamble to the main event, which is opening up the mystery box. Alright, we are gonna find out what is in this bad boy. And again, this was from Septum Sin of Septum Sin versus the World. I will link the link to the channel in the description. No clue what this is. We're gonna find out. And comes all the way from North Chesterfield, Virginia. Which, I'm in North Carolina, and so that's only one state above me. I feel like myself and some of the Virginia crew of Inside Movies Galore, we should probably physically meet up sometime if ever the opportunity arises. That would be pretty sweet. Alright. So we got some newspapers there as packing material. And the box here, I should make a note. The box is rightstuffanime.com, although I doubt it's actually from Right Stuff Anime. Alright, what all do we have? We got a bunch of DVDs, it looks like. We got the 20, whatever this was, 2010, I think? 2010, 2011, something like that. Version of Arthur. I've seen the original version of Arthur. I've not seen this one. I think this does have a Blu-ray. I'll figure out what I'm gonna do with it. This was back when Russell Brand was everywhere, and then he kind of ceased to be everywhere. I do love Jennifer Garner and Helen Mirren though. But yeah, Russell Brand is someone that I don't. I saw him in a few movies, not all that many. I didn't recall finding him all that funny in those movies, but I have seen videos on his YouTube channel because he's kind of a YouTuber now. And I've seen his videos on there, and I've seen interviews with him, and he seems very smart, and he seems very just kind of open to listening to people, and very introspective, and he talks about like his own heartbreaks and advice on what to do if you're going through heartbreak. So I can say that I like him very much. I need to dive more into his actual on-screen appearances. But yeah, he himself, from what all I've seen, I think he seems very intelligent and very insightful and everything. And we got something called The White Horse is Dead. Oh boy, no clue what this is. It's written and directed by Pete Red Sky. A sexually charged, man-hating widow, Glenn Close, meets Anne Bancroft. Sorry. Okay, this is... Wow, okay. So, look at the back of this. Okay, so it's got parentheses... It's a sexually charged man-hating widow, parentheses, Glenn Close, dash, fatal attraction, meets Anne Bancroft, dash, the graduate, parentheses, grooms her submissive daughter for a career in modeling, which, okay, that is just a horrifically badly written sentence. Like, I could barely get that out of my mouth. So, whoever wrote this, you get an F. Go back to English class. But yeah, I have no clue what this is. I will have to look into it. But, sexually charged man-hating widow, that's at least, that's something. And then we got 10 Cloverfield Lane here, which I have the first Cloverfield. Oh, well, there's a digital code I can sell if it hasn't already been used. I loved this film. Have been looking for the 4K of it, so I'll see what I can do with this, but absolutely loved this film. Cloverfield I liked, but 10 Cloverfield Lane I adored. I thought, well, I know that it was adapted from a spec script called The Cellar, and it had nothing to do with aliens, if I recall. It was, or rather, it had nothing to do, I don't know, I never read the original spec script, but point is, it was bought and it was repurposed as a entry in the 10 Cloverfield Lane franchise, which became an anthology, extremely loosely connected series of films that just happen to have Cloverfield in the title, so that way there could be more brand name recognition, blah, blah, blah. But with all that being said, amazing film, amazing performances from Mary Elizabeth Winstead and especially from John Goodman, who I love it whenever he plays a bad guy because he is terrifying. And then we have a movie I already have, The Houses October Built, on DVD, so I'll probably sell that. And then another movie I have, but I have it on Blu-ray, which is A Serious Man, which one of my favorite Coen Brothers films that is criminally underrated. highly, highly recommend it if you've never seen it. It's not necessarily for everyone. It's very off the beaten track, very kind of artsy, but anybody that is familiar with the Book of Job and or familiar with the history of Jewish Americans in whatever this was, 60s, 70s, says 1967. Anybody that's familiar with that or interested in that, definitely worth checking out. And what else do we have? I had this film on Blu-ray at one point. I will need to get it back in the collection, and that is The Secret of Nim, which honestly, well, actually, it says the standard version, so it's not widescreen. I had the Blu-ray of this, and it's an amazing film. One of the best animated films that American animated films that no one has seen, which is too bad because it's so good. But the Blu-ray of this has one of the worst transfers I have ever seen. Like, I am shocked at how bad the transfer is. It's like they didn't even try. Which is a shame because the movie itself is so good. It's like it deserves a lot better. I have no clue how the DVD stacks up. This is the standard version, so it's not widescreen, which makes baby Jesus cry. But yeah. What else do we have? We have Essential Art House Wild Strawberries, which this does have a Blu-ray release from the Criterion Collection. And this is an Ingmar Bergman film, which I have to say I have not seen. I have wanted to see it. I've been waiting to get the Criterion Blu-ray of it. But, yeah, so there you go. And then, what else do we have? We have an anime, it looks like. Record of Lotus War, complete series episodes 1 through 13. And the case is a little weird. I kind of wonder if this is official or if it's a bootleg. I really don't know. It's got a barcode, so I really have no clue. Now, the case, yeah, this is most likely a... Well, I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Point is, the case is definitely bizarre, but yeah, so this is an anime here. I've never heard of, and yeah. Record of Lotus War. There you go. And then, what else do we have? We got something with a slipcover. Oh, good. I've been meaning to get this back in the collection. Batman Ninja, which I still have not watched, but I remembered seeing the trailer for it, and I was like, damn, that looks really cool. It's Batman, but it's an anime. And I mean like a full-blown anime because it was made in Japan. The style is anime. And, you know, it's got Japanese voices as well as... I think there are 2 dubs, if I recall. Well, there for sure is an English dub. There might very well be a Japanese dub. I believe that there is. But, yeah, I have been wanting to check this out, and I'm sad that I never did. But it's obviously a period adaptation of Batman in feudal Japan. So, yeah, how about that? But yeah, thank you. I've been meaning to get that back in the collection. What else do we have? We got another Blu-ray, and it's sealed. And that is Inside Llewyn Davis. And I do believe that this has a Criterion now. I need to look into that. This is a Coen Brothers film. I've never seen this one, but I would like to. I remembered seeing the trailers for it, and I was like, hey, that looks cool. I like seeing Justin Timberlake in drama roles. And, oh, yay. Thank you. Kronos, an on Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection, and it is a Guillermo del Toro vampire film, if I recall. Or is it? I don't know. Well, it says the idea of immortality. I think it's a vampire film. I can't remember. I've never seen it. But... yes, I've been meaning to get this one back in the collection. Yeah, Kronos. Love that cover, too. What else do we have? We have a DVD. Oh, cool. Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman. And now this one does have a Criterion, but it's that big box set that is really expensive. And I will have to at some point I'll have to get that. But yeah, there you go. Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman on DVD. And got a few things left. Oh wow, nice Steelbook of Evil Dead 2, um, and version that looks like, okay. This looks like it's is this French? It's Region B. It's from Studio Canal. Um, looks really cool though. Um, and I do have this on 4K already, but yeah, it looks like it's French, but it's got a booklet and everything. I do have some Region B people that I might be able to have interested in this one. I don't know, but it is a beautiful looking one. I have to say, I have seen that artwork before. And last but not least, we have a movie called Ratchet, by John S. Johnson. And it says first writes the best American independent films. I think our dear Uncle Lloyd from Troma might take issue with that. Um, when one successful filmmaker, Elliot Callahan, is outcast from the industry, he finds himself on the brink of suicide. On the shores of Nantucket, Elliot begins to compose the script that will jumpstart his career. But when he becomes involved in a bizarre, unsolved murder, Elliot finds himself on the verge of the perfect story. Now, Elliot will soon discover that nothing on this island is what it seems, and while he will do anything to get this story, he soon realizes that a killer sees him as the final act. Nothing is what it seems. So, yeah, and I think that's everything. Let me just make 100% sure. Yep. Well, thank you very much, Septum Sin. I will definitely treasure these, and I will give you guys the shout out in the description, and much appreciated. So, if you liked all of this nonsense I talked about, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, set phasers to stun, warp factor 5. I will see you in the next video, my friends. Stay safe.